Hi, welcome everybody to the webinar. Please, we're going to wait a few minutes and then we'll start. Hi everybody, we're just going to wait 1 or 2 more minutes before we begin as people are still joining. Thanks everybody for your patience. Hi everybody. Okay, so we have some load shedding in Cape Town. So I'm tethering to my phone, and I think we've possibly lost a few people as a result of load shedding. We are recording the call, but it may be that Madelein is having issues joining. So we're just going to wait a few moments, and if she's unable to join, we are going to have to unfortunately reschedule just because of the unpredicted load shedding. So our humble apologies for that. I guess we all know the pain of the load shedding. So if we can just wait a few more minutes, thank you all for your patience. Karen, are you tethering? Can you maybe? Hi, sorry guys. Okay, I realized I wasn't on mute. Okay, so welcome everybody. So Madelein is trying to join. As we all know, we've got a little bit of load shedding happening, and that is creating a little bit of difficulties from our side. So I'm just going to put myself on mute, and hopefully Madelein will be able to join us. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for your patience. Sorry, we've just had load shedding our side. And so we're just putting some backup into place. If you could, thank you really for your patience. If you can just give us a few more minutes, and we should be able to be with you. Okay, hi everyone. Thanks so much. Madeleine, are you with us? Okay, you just need to put your volume up. I see you. Okay, while you're joining audio, okay, let me unmute you. Hold on. You need to unmute yourself, Madeleine. Unmute. Okay, perfect. Unmute. Wonderful. Madeleine, welcome. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for your patience. Madeleine, hang tight. Karen's going to introduce you, and just a huge welcome to everybody for our first Wednesday series of this month. Karen, I'm not going to take any more of anyone's time. Karen, over to you. Karen, you need to
unmute. Okay, there we go. And is the okay, right, there we go. A couple of glitches this morning, but there we go. Can you see? Okay, well, it doesn't, I'm not sure whether the video is also working.
Yes, the video is working. We can see you.
Oh, thank you so much. There we go. Hi. Thank you so much for joining us, and apologies, you know, we're at the mercy of Eskom at this particular stage, so I'm terribly sorry about that. So I'm delighted that Madeleine, our host, has been able to join us. There were a few hectic and tense moments there, I must say, Madeleine, but it's absolutely wonderful to have you join us. Madeleine, I've known for a number of years, going back to her days at Oasis, but she's a registered nurse practicing as an independent consultant in the health and the nursing industries. She was raised in the Free State, did her training at Ann Latsky Nursing College in Johannesburg, and her training hospital was Kopanong Hospital in Vereeniging in Johannesburg in Gauteng. She moved to Cape Town in 2003, where she continued her nursing career and expanded her knowledge and expertise in frail care and dementia care. She's also worked in the private sector as well as the NPO sector. So her management career started at the Oasis Care Centre, where she discovered her love and her passion for dementia care and legal compliance. Now, if any of you know Madeleine, you will know that her passion for the elderly is absolutely unbelievable. She shows it. She ensures that you know, the staff that she works with are absolutely professional in every possible way, and that certainly is due to her experience in the sector. She was one of the co-founders of Livewell Suites, now called Livewell Care. She was part of the team renovating the old children's home at Nazareth House in Cape Town into a dementia facility, which is called the Villa. Her career path included auditing of frail care facilities as part of the registration process with the Department of Social Development. She's the chairperson of Alzheimer's South Africa for the past 5 years, and she really believes and lives by what she believes is that we can all learn something new every day from each other. So welcome, Madeleine. So wonderful to have you, and thank you to each and every one of you for joining us in this, our first September webinar series.
Thank you very much, Karen. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Okay, thank you for the introduction, and thank you for having me today. I'm really looking forward to participating. Please bear with me. I had to download the Zoom app at short notice because my laptop doesn't work. So this is new for me on my phone, so just bear with me. But thank you for having me.
Thanks so much, Madeleine. So how we're going to work today is we've had some questions sent in, which I have shared with you. But I think for most of the group, and I think the questions will come as we go. And just to reiterate, I had sent a message, but the session is being recorded because obviously these sessions are so valuable to our wider audience. And also just a reminder to everyone on here, DementiaSA do have fundraising initiatives that allow people to sponsor data. So if anybody knows of anybody who is unable to join us because of data limitations, please to reach out to us. So Madeleine, I don't know if we want to start with those first two questions that I had sent to you, and that can be our kicking off point. And then I think what we'll do from there is that people can ask their questions in the chat function at the bottom of the screen. Alternatively, people can raise their hands to ask questions. And I think things will lead on from themselves as we go. Madeleine, do you have those questions there, or do you need me to pull them up?
As I can recall, I think the first question was about the early onset dementia of the one patient in a facility with regards to paranoia. And she thinks she's the president and gets very upset when she sees the president on TV, if I may recall.
I'm going to read the exact question. Sorry, I found it. So I'm just going to read the question from one of our support group members. So the question is, how best can one deal with an elderly person who's battling with onset of dementia? We currently have a resident with onset of dementia who's presenting with paranoia. She believes that Ramaphosa, the president, is not happy with her. Whenever she sees the president on the news, she starts to panic.
Okay, you know what? There's a couple of things that one needs to do before we just find a solution to the specific problem. I usually start from a clinical point of view to test people's, the residents' urine, just to make sure that clinically there's nothing wrong, perhaps an infection, a urinary tract infection, a lung infection that can also bring on things like paranoia. Paranoia can be part of the dementia. So one needs to treat the paranoia, see where it comes from, treat it. And for time being, one needs to redirect the resident's thoughts. Whenever she becomes anxious because she thinks the president is not happy with her, redirect the thoughts, talk her through all of this, make her calm, and try to relieve the anxiety. I think if it's not clinical, one needs to talk through all of this with the patient and say, you know what, it's not the president is happy, or redirect and say, let's go and participate rather in activities. So get the thoughts away from this specific topic to relieve anxiety.
Great, thank you so much for that. Sorry, my internet, if I'm cutting in and out. The next question is, what is your take on, and please forgive me the way that I'm pronouncing this, haloperidol to treat dementia-related symptoms? We currently have a resident on haloperidol 5 mgs, and she's constantly shaking, and her gait, please excuse me, is no longer stable. She's been experiencing a lot of falls lately, and it's difficult for her to use an assistive walking device or a crutch because of the shaking.
Okay, so we need to understand that medication's got a different effect on different people. There's a reason why her attending doctor prescribed the medication. The person administering the medication is responsible to look out for side effects or effects that it has on the specific person. So my suggestion would be, I cannot interfere with a doctor's prescription. They must rather refer back to the doctors and tell the doctor, what they are experiencing about her being unstable, because then they need to look into the dosage. Is it too little, too much? But that's something they'll definitely have to discuss with the doctor.
Thank you so much. Okay, I am going to now unmute Lovemore, who has a question. You just need to accept the unmute. No, you're still muted, so it'll come up. It'll say unmute. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
How can I handling the patient with the dementia when the trouble? How can I handle the patient of the behavior. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay,
How can I handle it? Yes.
Okay, so as I understand correctly, you want to know troubleshooting on the management of a person with dementia. So do I understand correctly if you say she's like perhaps acting out, being a little bit aggressive, disruptive behavior, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so your first troubleshooting, what we usually do from a clinical point of view, you test the resident's urine, you do the vital signs, you need to do the temperature, the blood pressure, the respiration, if it's a diabetic, you do the blood sugar, and then if you can't find anything wrong there, we go back to what initiated this kind of behavior. What was the caregiver doing prior to what has happened now with the resident acting out, or what was the resident doing that could have contributed to this kind of behavior? So the troubleshooting is like two ways. It's from a clinical point of view and then from a behavior point of view. So you need to go back and backtrack and see, is it clinically or is it something that somebody has done? Like say the caregiver wanted the resident to go for a shower and the resident didn't want to go for a shower at that point in time. Does that answer your question?
Yes, that's true. I need to also, like, I need to find out when you're working with a patient of dementia. I'm one of the caregiver. I'm working with the dementia almost 2 years now. But the most difficult when I'm handling about the patients when they're aggressive. Sometimes when I need to shower or to give me don't want to shower. So what I must do it? Can you just give some ideas?
Okay, you get a lot of, or you do get aggressive behavior when you want the resident to do something that they don't want to do at that specific point in time. So rather look into the history of the resident. Say perhaps what times did this resident used to have a shower? Was it morning, late morning, evening, late afternoon? And try to adapt according to the resident's previous routine. And if the residents still don't
Yes.
want to cooperate, did you get me there? I say I was lost a bit there. Can you still hear?
Yes, I'm still.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So if the resident doesn't want to shower immediately, you know what? Just redirect again. So let's just go and have a walk in the garden. Chat to the resident. Say, you know what? It's like now it's cold. Let's just go for a nice warm shower. Don't you think it's a good idea? You always need to make the resident feel that they were part of the decision making. They still have an autonomy, so they can still speak for themselves. So you need to have creative ways to say, no, don't you think we should go for a shower now, be nice and warm? And also, like I said before, find out when the resident used to have a shower. I always say if I end up in a dementia unit and they wake me up at 6 in the morning for a shower, they'll definitely have to give me some calming tablets because I will kick and scream. I'm not an early morning shower person.
Okay, thanks. I'll ask another question another time.
Okay.
Thanks, Lovewell. That's really great.
Good.
And it's so lovely to have people who are working in facilities on these webinars. So thanks for being here. Madeleine, we have another question coming in, and it's around your experience in state-run facilities working with the DSD. And obviously having, you know, some facilities are, not all facilities are created equally, I guess. And just to get an understanding that if somebody were to have a loved one in a facility, how would that kind of work? Obviously, one has to have a referral from a social worker, but once a loved one was going into a facility, what sort of questions should a loved one ask the facility? Should someone of a loved one with dementia ask the facility before allowing before being okay with their loved one going in? Does that make sense? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Okay. I always tell people there's some legal requirements that they need to ask the questions. They need to ask questions about the legal requirements, but also they need to go to the facility, have a look and feel. You will get an idea if your mom or dad will fit in there. From a legal or registration point of view, You can ask the facility manager to show you proof of registration with the Department of Social Development. If it's a specific dementia facility, they need to provide also the licensing certificate from the Department of Mental Health. I also usually tell people to ask about the ratio. The norms and standards have a guideline of 1 to every 4 residents on day duty and 1 to every 6 on night duty. That's just the minimum standard. So you usually measure that against what the facility has to offer. Then also, is there a registered person on duty, a registered nurse? Because those are the people who manage the care of the resident, the medication, those kind of things. It's important also, actually very important, to know what kind of activities the facility offer. I think the caring bit comes second to activities in the dementia care facility, in my opinion, because these people need to be kept busy with meaningful activities. You can't just put people around the table and say everybody is doing some coloring in now or whatever. It needs to be something that means something to that person's life, to keep them busy, to train their brains, to keep their brains alive and awake, or trained, yeah. You know what I'm getting at. So it's important to the ratio, the registration, the licensing, the activities. Those things are the most important things. And then, like I said, people need to go and have a look what the residents look like. Do they look happy? Do they look well cared for? That's very important. And then you'll get a better idea if mom or dad or whatever loved one will fit in at that facility.
Terrific. That's great. Before we kind of carry on with more questions that people have sent in, would anyone like to raise their hand or ask a specific question? Just so that everyone feels an opportunity to be heard and get a chance to ask questions. Karen, you're muted.
Unmute, there we go. I just want to mention, Madeleine, thank you so much. The questions that are being asked are real practical, important questions in terms of the management of people with dementia. And I think that is, that's really where, that's at the heart. We're caring for people who are still people, who, still have wants and needs, and who need to be cared for and understood, despite the fact that they have a debilitating illness that is progressive and will decline with time. I think one of the important things is just also that DementiaSA has a number of resources available on our website. So on our website, there are resources available in English, Afrikaans, Zulu, Xhosa, and South Sotho. And those are available as downloads or as, information sheets or advice sheets. So I think that there's that as well. And, you can email us on info@dementiasa.org for us to redirect questions to professionals, for example, like Madeleine, if it's a nursing question, or somebody like social workers also that need that kind of. We're also hoping that with this webinar series we'll be able to formulate a really good understanding of how a person needs to be cared for in the bigger scheme of things. Madeleine, I just want to ask, usually when we've cared for our loved ones at home, and we now have to transition them into full-time residential care. We've chosen a facility, etc., etc. Just talk us through that process at a family, finally, when you get into a care facility and you have carers like Love More and those that take care of this person with dementia, what is it that they may encounter from the family in terms of understanding that decision making to put them into that care facility?
Okay, I think in general, it is a very emotional decision for families to actually make a decision to put somebody in a care facility. We all want to care for our loved ones in our homes for as long as possible, but it really gets to a point where they can't. I usually tell families then, you know what, you are acting in the best interest of the resident. And by choosing a very good facility, a care facility, and putting the resident there, you are acting in their best interest, because they will get supervised care. There will be somebody 24 hours a day available, caring for them, looking at their needs. It's a very emotional thing that we usually get from the families, a lot of guilt. So we also try and talk them through that, because like I said, it's acting in the best interest of the resident. With carers at home, I don't know if it was part of the question, but I'll just add to it, like Lovemore was caring, usually you can make some kind of arrangement with the care facility with regards to a personal carer. It's difficult for this person to suddenly be in a unfamiliar surrounding, a different routine. It makes it a little bit more difficult to adapt. But if they have a carer, arrange with the facility to have that carer come in a couple of hours a day, just for that transitional time, just to help them settle in. It really helps, these people, if there's somebody that's familiar to them and knows the routine, because they can contribute to the staff and say, you know what, this is our routine, let's try and stick to it to make it less traumatic.
Thanks, Madeleine. So we have lots of questions have come in now. Okay, so one of the questions is how do we, so it's a two-part question, how to know if an older person has early onset dementia, and so I guess let's answer that, because a few of them kind of are overlapping, but I guess just to that those kind of key things to look out for, that would tell us if somebody may possibly had early onset dementia?
Okay, usually early onset dementia is, it usually starts within people younger than 60 years. So it's the same with the signs and symptoms. Do they tend to become forgetful, can't deal with daily activities anymore, things that they used to do, they can't do anymore, especially with activities to daily living. And again, the same goes for any diagnosis. They need to be referred to a doctor or psychiatrist, have a family member present who can give feedback with regards to symptoms that this person is experiencing, to enable this doctor to do the necessary examinations, tests to determine if this person indeed have early onset of dementia.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, next one is, when your loved one is at the beginning of the last stage of dementia, what can we expect in terms of behavior and clinical ways? And how long can someone be at this stage for?
Okay, that's a difficult one, because every person is unique. We're all different. The progression in every person is not exactly the same. It depends on what kind of dementia the person had, the personality traits, things like that. All of that plays a role. The person's nutritional state, circumstances where they are at that point in time. I think in general with, later stages, end stage, I trust all preparation has been made to make this person as comfortable as possible, looking at living wills, special requests with regards to this person's care and health. I think in general there's a deterioration, obviously mentally, but physically also. It's almost as the body is shutting down. So people will become less active, perhaps more lethargic. Eating will perhaps be less. They'll spend more time in bed. I think it's the same progression, more or less for all kinds of dementia, but that's something they can expect. Again, it's not every person who's going to have the same experience or the same symptoms. It differs from person to person, but that's in general, the progression of persons with end stage.
Thank you for that. Okay, then another question has come in. If somebody has dementia and they have acute sleeplessness, what could be done to help that?
Okay. Acute sleeplessness, I assume then they don't have a good night sleep. That's what you're meaning.
Yeah, so I guess what the person's saying is kind of like for days on end, kind of chronic sleeplessness or insomnia.
Okay. You know what is very important, again, to keep this person busy with meaningful activities during the day, limit rest periods, to make sure that when the person needs to go to bed, they're actually tired. I know it's difficult to get into that kind of routine because usually those people are tired during the day because they were wandering the whole night, they didn't sleep, rolling around, their brains don't shut down. So it's important to get them into a routine, and sometimes it's also important to get the psychiatrist involved, perhaps prescribed a sleeping tablet, which can be administered at night, just to try and get them into that routine of being awake during the day and sleeping at night. It's very important for them to get a good night's sleep because it influences your mental abilities and physically also. You need to, have enough rest.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I've got a question here. How does one deal with a parent at the beginning stages of dementia who believe that they do not belong in a facility or need care? However, he does need care and doesn't have a place to stay. He believes we are dumping him to forget him. Obviously, COVID not helping with not being able to visit. So I'm assuming, yeah, the person has placed the person in the care center.
Okay. Most people who are being placed in facilities think they don't belong there. Again, it's a process amongst the family members and the person with dementia, explaining why they see the necessity of, getting additional care or putting somebody in a care facility. It's all in the best interest. It's difficult for them to accept that because they still want to keep their independence. And I think that's the biggest problem. Or in dementia care, people want to be independent and they don't want to lose their independence. And we tend to sometimes take it away unintentionally in some of the care centers because of our caring and everything we do for them. And that, again, like I said, the autonomy and the dignity is very important. We need to understand and remember, like Karen said, this is still a person. They still have needs. They still have a voice. We need to listen to them. And we need to, support them in their decisions as well. It is difficult for people to put somebody in a facility and that person not understanding. It is a process of sitting down, talking about it, and just support this person mentally as well. And I think it's good to show examples of incidences where this person perhaps something happened or forgot something, say, what, Dad, Mom, you tend to forget these things. We're worried about you, about your safety, your well-being. They need to understand that you do it out of the love for them and not because you just want to shove them into a facility.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. You're answering these questions so concisely and beautifully. Okay, so I'm going to read, this is a big question from, so I'm just going to read it. There's a big stigma within the Muslim community, as we generally do not send our elderly to any sort of old age home or care facility, as families take the responsibility to look after. So the look after is in inverted commas, as is the care facility and old age home. We tend to look after their parents until the end. However, we know that dementia patients often need frail care and medical assistance. During my MBA, I did research around care needed for persons suffering from dementia within the Muslim community in South Africa and concluded that there's a huge need for facilities geared towards Muslims in lots more detail in study, which has been published in numerous medical journals, interested in guidance as to where to start. As it is my dream to set up one of those care facilities and the future both throughout Cape Town. So the question is, do people mentor somebody who would like to pursue a dream like this? If this isn't the platform to discuss this, let me know. But I guess, so the bigger question is, because obviously stigma would be across kind of all religions and all communities. But I guess the big kind of piece of this question is, where would one get the mentorship from were one to want to open a care facility with kind of addressing specific needs?
Okay. As far as I know, there's no specific person or company who does this kind of guidance. From my previous experience in the frail care or dementia industries, I do provide guidance to certain facilities if they need guidance with regards to the legal compliance and policies, procedures, those kind of things. I don't think this is particularly the forum to discuss it, the platform, but this person can contact me if she wants to. I think it's very important that we do educate people out there about the stigma. We don't need to stigmatize people with dementia. They are also just people with dementia. And again, like I said, we need to care for them to the best of our abilities. And if that means putting them into a care facility, you know what, if that's the best for the person, let's act on that and do the best to our ability. So this lady can contact me, and I think in general we all should work, getting the stigma about dementia. We don't want that. We need to care for our people with dignity and respect.
Thanks, Madelein. Okay, another question is, this person is looking for a home-based carer for a loved one with dementia, and they want to know, how do they prepare their home for a carer?
Okay, it depends on the carer, the shifts that the carer is going to work. If it's going to be ordinary shifts, like in the hospitals or care facilities, it's 2 days on, 2 days off, with a person opposite them, or Monday to Friday. They just need to have an area where the carer can also have a meal, have a rest time, but still be available for the resident. Toilet facilities, hand wash facilities. And I think in this COVID pandemic time we're in, just to make sure that this person also adheres to all the necessary precautions like hand sanitizing, wearing a mask, perhaps have an apron on, or things like that. If it's a live-in carer, somebody who sleeps in, they need to make sure that this carer has a place to sleep, meals provided, toilet facilities, shower facilities, somewhere or someone who can wash their laundry, just to make it also comfortable for them while looking after the resident.
Okay, great. And we've got one more question, and then Lovemore, I'll unmute you for you. I see that your hand has been so patiently up. Thank you. So one more question that's come in was, someone is caring at home for a parent with dementia in their home, and they're not sure, and they want to know, when is that moment where you know, or not necessarily that moment, but kind of at what time does one know that one should put a parent or a loved one into a care facility as opposed to staying at home?
Okay, that question is to be answered by the caregiver. You must decide when you feel you can no longer take care of this resident to the best of your ability, as you also need to look after yourself. You can't look after somebody else when you are falling apart. So that decision is up to the person who's actually taking care of the loved one. But again, with that being said, please don't wait until all the wheels come off and everything falls apart. I think there's signs where you can see, this person is more dependent on you, taking more time. You can't just go to the shops. You don't have any time for yourself anymore. Then you really need to start and realize, should I consider putting this person in a care facility? It's very important for caregivers to also look after themselves. They tend to neglect themselves because of their love and care for the person with dementia.
Thanks, Madeleine. And that, I think, we can, I'm going to give over to Lovemore now. Lovemore, you just need to unmute yourself, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, no, it was my boss here. He was supposed to ask the questions, so she left again. She went outside to look after, because I'm still at working. So, but I just need to to ask the questions concern about wandering. While the patient of the dementia, they like to wandering, like they're walking up and down. So just need to be like, I need to put the comment about it, because sometimes you need to find out what's the problem. The person sometimes it be hunger, or you need to go to the toilet. It's like that. So I just need to put like the comment in that issue.
Okay, I think, Lovewell, that's why it's important to have a routine where you almost like do the troubleshooting and you tick the boxes. So say, for instance, you've been to the loo. Okay, let's start in the morning. They had breakfast, they had a toilet round, and they're still wandering around. If they, yeah, usually they do the vital signs within the care facilities at least once a day. I don't know if you do it at home, but I mean, you will see if something is the matter with the person, after you've done your routine things. So yeah, the best thing is to stick to the routine, and then you'll get an idea of is there really something wrong, or is it just really wandering, if this person just wants to walk around. The thing with wandering is it's very important to then look at the person's nutritional state as well, because when you wander a lot, you tend to use more energy, and then you need to look at your diet to make sure that you don't use too much kilojoules and don't get enough in your meals, if you understand what I'm saying. It's
Yes.
important to also look at the diet then for this person, especially if it's somebody who's wandering most of the day.
Okay.
Great, thanks, Lovewell. That's a great question. I think we're going to open up to the floor now. So if people want to use their raise hand function, we've got about another 15 minutes to the session. And thank you again, Madeleine, for your time and energy. We're so greatly appreciated. Yeah, so you can just raise your hand. You can use that function at the bottom of the screen, or if you're more comfortable writing something in the chat, please do that too. Okay, Madeleine, somebody has sent through a thing. I don't know. I'm just going to read the question, but it says, what are the major differences between kind of a state facility and a private facility? I guess other than the obvious, one is a state and one is a private facility, but what kind of, if you can maybe explain a little bit, kind of, are there any overheads in a state facility, and what does that experience looks like? What are the mass differences?
Okay, a state facility and a private facility, both are being managed more or less in the same way. It's based on some financial model that they are following. With regards to legislation and registration, licensing, they all fall under the same legislation. They all need to be registered with PSD. They all need to license with mental health. Everybody needs to adhere to the norms and standards, the ratios, those kind of things, because we set a standard, or a standard is being set within private and state facilities. I think the difference is just like in private facilities, it's usually families that pay the monthly fees, where in government facilities, apologies, there's some subsidized homes where the government do subsidize some of the rooms, and the residents, usually their fees come from their monthly pension. But other than that, everything else works more or less on the same module. It's unfortunately also a business. It's run like a business, private or state, unless it's NPO. NPO is non-profit. But they all have their overheads. They all have their staff. Most of the private facilities don't often have their own social worker on staff, whereas the government hospitals usually have someone, but that's usually not a big issue, because they can always engage with a private social worker, but the family then needs to pay for it. And also, most of the facilities nowadays have occupational therapists, physiotherapists coming to the facilities. I know some of them, the government facilities usually have their own in-house, and the private facilities make use of outsourced physio and occupational therapist services.
Great, thank you. Thank you for that. Then this question is, how does one support a person who's caring at home for a loved one with dementia?
Okay, like I said, it's very important. The caregivers are often the ones who are being neglected with regards to support. I always tell caregivers, get involved with the support group. You need to share your feelings. You don't always have to be strong. You need to share ideas on management of certain behaviors, things that work, don't work, and also to tell them it's okay to get help, to get a carer, or at whatever point the person needs to be placed into a facility. It's important for caregivers to look after themselves, because if they are not well and healthy, they can't really look after the person with dementia. So it's important for them, to get enough exercise, get out, have a social life, eat well, sleep well. And if you can't tick those boxes, you need to get help and support.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, is there a standardized DNA CPR forms used?
The do not resuscitate forms. No, there's not a specific one. You can go onto the internet and you can download a do not resuscitate document. On that point, I just want to add with regards to living wills, those you can also download from the internet, but just make sure you need to be very clear on wishes in the living will. If you say you don't want to be kept alive artificially, you need to be very clear to say, I don't want to be on a ventilator, but I would like to have pain medication if necessary, or antibiotics if necessary. So one just needs to look at the fine print and just make sure that it's very clear on what is on the living will. And the person who also signed the do not resuscitate, that is somebody who co-signed it, so it's a legal document.
Great, thank you. Okay, then, does SASA provide caregiver grant? I left my work and I'm currently surviving my mother's pension, which is substantial, but was wondering.
Unfortunately, I can't answer that question. I'm not familiar with that.
So thanks for that question, Terzil. We can, I see that you have included everyone in that question. I don't know if anyone on this call possibly knows. If not, we can try to get back to you with an answer. Tobega, you know? Okay, I'm going to unmute you. Hi.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. SASA does not necessarily have a caregiver grant, but they do have a grant in aid, although it's not much. I think the last time I checked, it was 350. It was for the caregiver who's providing care to somebody who is a SASA beneficiary. So it is called a grant in aid. So
sorry, you're echoing a little bit, just so if I can repeat that. It's a SASA grant, it's called a grant in aid.
Yes, it's called grant in aid.
Okay.
So the caregiver can apply for that grant in aid. Yes.
Oh, great. Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's good to know. Thank you. Okay, so this is the next question. Is there any get to know me document that relatives can complete for their loved ones when entering a dementia facility to inform carers of their likes, dislikes, time they normally wash, time they take medication, what medication?
Yes, there's a lot of these kind of documents on the internet. Usually what facilities do, they get all the information together and they usually compile their own document. They can also download something from the internet and use that. I would actually suggest that you do combine some of the information on the internet and develop your own document. That's something I like to do.
Madeleine, we've lost your sound. Oh, okay.
Answers that, questions asked in that specific document.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for that. We've got one more question come through, and then I think we'll see where we land after that. So this question is, if a loved one is at a care facility and one suspects foul play by the carers or staff at the facility, what is the process that one needs to follow in order to address this?
Okay. most facilities do have a complaints and compliments policy. They need to familiarize them with how to report a complaint, and they need to put it in writing. I always tell people, you know what, you can't just go by word of mouth, verbal complaints. It needs to be put in writing with times, dates, persons involved, and the complaint needs to be submitted to the manager. And usually within the policy, it states that the manager will give feedback within 24 or 48 hours, written feedback, and then they will investigate. Usually they make use of CCTV cameras. If there's CCTV cameras in the facilities, they can look at the footage, and they also get statements from the staff with regards to the allegation.
Great, thank you so much. So I think we've got enough time for one more question. If anyone in the group would like, you can just raise your hand or write the question in the chat bar. But I think some really interesting stuff you've covered, Madeleine, so thank you so much. I'm just going to give everyone a few minutes to just see if they have any questions. So just kind of, well, okay, here we go. So is there, oh, sorry, I think I've, oh, okay, sorry. For a person with advanced dementia who cannot state their wishes and become agitated when staff have to wash them, do they have to complete any deprivation of liberties document?
No, they're not in the state of mind to complete any documents to say, you know, what, especially what they want or do not want. Washing is part of activities of daily care. It's part of our nursing and caring service we render. So usually, again, we need to investigate to see what causes the agitation. Does the person, is it too early, too late, too cold? Is it perhaps their approach to the resident that makes them agitated? And again, just try to work around it, talk through it, and see if it's, you know, you can't get a specific, you can't get the person to do or go for the wash or whatever. It's important just to keep that in mind as well. You know, when you deal with people with dementia, again, they have autonomy, they have wishes, so see how you can work around that. And if all else fails, you know what, if you put a person under a shower with their clothes, you don't want them kicking and screaming, but if they willingly go into a shower with their clothes on, you know what, you can wet their clothes and then gradually start to undress them. Perhaps there's also a way of getting them to go into a shower or having a wash.
Thanks, Madeleine. Ann, I believe, sorry, I missed your hand up there. Did you have a question? I'm just going to unmute you, so accept the unmute.
No, I just had a comment. I wanted to share my experience with haloperidol, that haloperidol question. Often at the clinics, the doctors just ask a few questions, say the person has dementia, and just prescribe haloperidol, and they say, oh, this will help, you know, because it will knock. If the person hasn't been fully examined by a specialist and the person has Lewy body dementia, that haloperidol is going to kill the person. Because with my mother, one haloperidol tablet knocked her out for 2 days, and after that she was completely demacast. So the specialists at Grootes Care, they said, don't go with Lewy body dementia patients, don't go anywhere near those antipsychotics, because it's going to make it easier for you to handle the person, because the person won't be a problem, but it can have absolutely the opposite effect. So instead of calming the person down, the person can become absolutely hyper agitated. And so that was when I saw that haloperidol question, I just thought, wow, that's, you know, that's what I experience with medicating problem behavior away. That's my comment. But I mean, I find the way of dealing with it is the hard way. Distraction, massages, let it burn out, basically.
And
thank you.
thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. And I guess just to reiterate is that, you know, we, no one on this forum is a doctor, nor can we, you know, we can't prescribe. I know, Madeleine, you had said this, and just to echo the same. Yeah, absolutely. So just to reiterate that, but thank you for sharing your experience. Madeleine, some people have asked, are you comfortable with us sharing your contact details?
Yeah, that's fine. You're more than welcome to share. I would gladly help. And like I said, you know, I like to learn from people, and if I can teach you something today, then it's awesome. So yeah, you're welcome to share.
Madeleine, is that, if it's okay with everybody, I'm going to, if you want to just maybe put your, or I'm happy to put your cell phone number in the chat function on this chat, and then everyone can access that. I don't know, or would you prefer your email? Email maybe.
I would prefer the email.
You want
unfortunately,
yeah.
Sorry, yeah, I can't put on my email address
no,
on,
that's
on the page at one time.
We're all having,
yeah, if you could just put it on.
That's absolutely fine. I'll do that right now. Let me just look for that. And I think if anyone, okay, so Taryn has asked, so she's just saying that she's found music an amazing settler and a distractor. Madeleine, before we finish out, while I'm just putting your email in, I don't know if there's anything kind of you wanted to share or say before we finish off.
Yeah, again, I just want to thank you for having me today. And I trust that whatever information I gave today would assist people looking after people with dementia. Like I said, it's very close to my heart. And I think we need to stand together to get away with the stigma on dementia, and also support each other. And like I said, learn from each other. Whatever works and doesn't work, you know what, we need to share and we need to support. Thank you again for having me.
Absolutely. Madeleine, I'm so sorry, just because I'm struggling here with the load shedding and the tethering. Could you tell me what your email is, and I'll type it into the chat function for everyone?
Okay, it's Madelein, Madelein, at bestcareconsult.co.za.
Okay, perfect, everyone. So I've put that into the chat function. So everyone, and thank you so much for sharing your contact details with us and taking the time. And truly thank you for that. And before I hand over to Karen, just a reminder to everyone. So for every Tuesday for the month of September at 12, DementiaSA will be hosting a series of webinars. And next week we have with us Robin Black, who is a OT with a special focus on older persons and persons with dementia. Karen, I'm going to hand over to you to finish off, but thank you everybody for joining us. It's been lovely to have you all. Karen, do you want to just finish off?
There we go. Madeleine, all I can say is just thank you, thank you, thank you. I know that everybody has at least, you know, a few nuggets of takeaway from this, and I think that you know, there's a lot of things that are sometimes only spoken about quietly, also in terms of, like, for instance, stigma. And I think it's forums like this where we all get together, we all see each other, and we can openly discuss some of the things that that are troubling us. And I think it's important for us to understand that there is help out there. No matter how that help comes in, there is always help out there. So we appreciate you sharing your email address and being able to assist with some of the questions that do come in. But please, thank you, thank you, thank you. Reach out to Madeleine. Great insight into dementia and dementia care, and particularly around the legalities of all of these things. I think that sometimes, you know, as carers, we really don't know where to turn, and we're guilt-ridden, we're tired, we're exhausted, we're emotional, and, you know, sometimes that, in terms of the mix of the best practice or best care practice is sometimes always overshadowed. So once again, our enormous thanks. Our support groups happen on a Thursday. So those who would like to join us on a Thursday, those are more focused in terms of, support groups as in individuals. And this webinar series is with professionals, and that's held on a Tuesday. Madeleine, once again, enormous thanks.
Thank you
all the
so
technical hurdles and load shedding. So at least we could get it done.
Thank you very much. I just saw at the bottom of the screen, you posted a second email address. I think that was the wrong one. The first one was correct. It's Madelein, Madelein, at bestcareconsult.co.za.
Yes.
But thank you again for having me, and thank you for the great work you guys are doing, and also people who attend this Zoom meeting. Thank you for the hard work and the great work you guys are doing. It's awesome.
Thank you. Sorry, and just I've got my apologies. I have spelt your email address twice incorrectly, everyone. So I'm not. It is. So it's Madelein, Madelein at bestcareconsult.co.za. Thank you for that.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. Thanks, everybody. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's a pleasure.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, Madeleine.
Thanks. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye. Bye. Thanks,
Bye.
everybody. Bye. Bye-bye. It's great.